TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations. Shalom ve'erev tov, good evening. Welcome to our daily TV7 Israel News Bulletin, broadcast from Jerusalem. President Donald Trump asserts following his meeting with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that he is poised on giving diplomacy a chance with the Islamic Republic of Iran. Turkey's Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan warns that unless the United States yields to Iran's demands regarding its ballistic missiles program, the Ayatollah regime will revert to war. Israeli President Isaac Herzog voices alarm over the scope of antisemitism in Australia. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and U.S. President Donald Trump met for roughly 2.5 hours in the White House yesterday, twice as long as initially planned. Both sides have maintained ambiguity regarding the meeting's results. However, unlike his previous meetings, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu entered the White House through the back door, and a great effort was clearly made to keep a low media profile. Following the meeting, the Israeli Prime Minister's bureau made do with a brief and succinct statement, quote, "In the meeting, they discussed the negotiations with Iran, Gaza, and regional developments. The Prime Minister emphasized the security needs of the State of Israel in the context of the negotiations, and the two leaders agreed to continued coordination and the close contact between them." President Trump, for his part, released a statement on his Truth Social platform stating, quote, "It was a very good meeting. The tremendous relationship between our two countries continues. There was nothing definitive reached other than I insisted that negotiations with Iran continue to see whether or not a deal can be consummated. If it can, I let the Prime Minister know that will be a preference. If it cannot, we will just have to see what the outcome will be. Last time, Iran decided that they were better off not making a deal, and they were hit with Midnight Hammer. That did not work well for them. Hopefully this time they will be more reasonable and responsible." It is worth noting that reporters accompanying the Israeli leader have reported that Netanyahu is all but convinced that a military confrontation with the Islamic Republic of Iran is inevitable and that the attack is only a question of when. Meanwhile, a Wall Street Journal report confirmed that the Pentagon is preparing a second aircraft carrier strike group to deploy to the Middle East, further bolstering American military capabilities in the region. Per varying estimates, 2 aircraft carriers available for the mission include the USS Gerald R. Ford, which is reportedly operating in the vicinity of Venezuela, which could reach the CENTCOM region once deployed within approximately 8 days, while in tandem, the U.S. George W. Bush could theoretically arrive in the Middle East under 40 days. Nevertheless, while the USS Bush Carrier Strike Group just concluded a set of drills near Norfolk off the coast of Virginia, the USS Ford Carrier has already completed some 8 months at sea. Turning to Berlin, where German Foreign Minister Johann Vadeful addressed Washington's latest efforts to confront the malign behavior by the Islamic Republic of Iran.
It is good that the United States has raised exactly the right questions and that these are now also being discussed between the United States and Iran. Naturally, this concerns the nuclear program, which has already been the subject of our negotiations within the framework of the E3. It also concerns the ballistic missile program that Iran is developing. These missiles not only threaten Israel, but also Europe. That is why, in my view, it is also in our interest that these issues be addressed and resolved through negotiation.
Meanwhile, Turkey's Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan, in an interview with the Financial Times, claimed both the United States and Iran appeared ready to compromise to secure a nuclear deal, but warned that American demands to cover Tehran's ballistic missiles program would risk another war. According to Ankara's top diplomat, the United States has signaled a willingness to be flexible on President Trump's key demand of zero enrichment, which Tehran openly asserted it was unwilling to accept. In parallel, Minister Fidan cautioned that the Islamic Republic would continue to refuse any discussions on limiting its ballistic missiles arsenal. In other words, the Ayatollah regime does not appear willing to showcase any flexibility, and claims by regional actors that the Ayatollah regime was keen on a deal relates to an agreement that would have Washington make far-reaching concessions for diminutive returns. Meanwhile, in Tehran proper, reported deliberations on a date for a second round of indirect talks with the United States are being held. That after the Secretary of the Supreme National Security Council, Ali Larijani, concluded his two-leg trip to both Oman and Qatar.
This comes as part of ongoing consultations that he is holding with his counterparts from various countries in the region. In line with Iran's fundamental policy of strengthening relations and ties with neighboring countries, pursuing a good neighborhood policy and reinforcing the region are among the pillars of our foreign policy. Therefore, this visit should be seen within that framework. Moreover, this trip had been planned in advance, and both his visit to Oman and his subsequent trip to Qatar are along the same lines.
The Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesman also seized the opportunity to diminish the significance of the talks in Oman, claiming that the indirect negotiations merely aimed at assessing whether the United States was serious.
The Muscat meeting, which was not a long session, was in fact a half-day meeting. From our perspective, it was aimed at assessing the seriousness of the other side and the potential course of the process. Accordingly, this meeting generally focused more on the broader picture. We felt that there is understanding and mutual comprehension that this diplomatic process can continue, and I think that in itself is significant.
Shifting gears to Australia, where Israeli President Isaac Herzog concluded a working visit, prior to which he attended an event by the Zionist Federation in Melbourne, where he had highlighted both hopes and deep-rooted concerns.
Michal and I came to Australia on a journey of solidarity and love, following the horrific terrorist attack on Bondi, which claimed the lives of 15 innocent Australians. We came knowing that the blood-curdling act of blind hatred, hatred of Jews, hatred of Australian values that led to Bondi was not an isolated event. It followed nearly 2.5 agonizing years for this community in which your Jewish identities became targets in Australia, just as you watched a massacre and a war unfold in Israel. We came here to be with you, to look you in the eye, to embrace, to remember, and weep together. And we wept. Indeed, we wept a great deal this week. And still, I must tell you that we returned to Israel feeling empowered, because we have seen firsthand the beauty and resilience of this community and its significance in the eyes of all Australians of goodwill.
Israel's head of state also seized the opportunity to address his meetings with Australian leaders who've committed to step up Canberra's efforts to combat anti-Semitism and organized disinformation. And while the event took place under heavy police protection in light of hundreds of Islamists, Marxists, and anarchists protesting outside of the venue against the state of Israel and the Jewish people, President Herzog refused to remain silent.
I found serious partners who are willing to hold serious conversations and address the vile rhetoric, the misinformation, the shameful anti-Semitism head on. And I must say, and when I say head on, I say that to me, it's obscure and odd that we need to have so many incredible police officers protecting us for the inherent right of us to gather here as proud Jews to host the president of the only Jewish state on earth without any harassment and disturbance. And I say to all those protesters outside, go protest in front of the Iranian embassy or whichever embassy they have. For heaven's sake, they killed and butchered around 50,000, tens of thousands of their own people, operating a whole machine of an empire of evil against us. We, the State of Israel, which is protecting the free world, literally protecting the free world and its values by combating this empire of evil.
Subsequently, in an interview with the local Australian television network, the Israeli head of state was asked to respond to allegations voiced by protesters labeling him a war criminal who is responsible for genocide.
So God forbid, I never incited genocide. It's a libelous lie. And that's part of the whole circumstances of our lives, meaning enormous brainwashing with a lot of lies and blasphemy, which has no basis. We were attacked by the most barbaric and vicious terror organization on October 7th, 2023.
President Herzog continued by highlighting that while anti-Semitism clearly plagues Australia, the silent majority is far from it.
I'm saying to my people and to the Jewish people worldwide that I found in Australia, which is different from what was depicted. There is anti-Semitism, it is frightening and worrying, but there's also a silent majority of Australians who seek peace, who respect the Jewish community, and of course want a dialogue with Israel.
Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. If you're blessed by our productions from here in Jerusalem and you have yet to support TV7 Israel, which is exclusively donation-based, please consider doing so. You can donate via our website at www.tv7israelnews.com. Separately, keep praying for the peace of Jerusalem and the redemption of Israel, as well as for the Iranian people who are vying for liberation from the tyrannical Ayatollah regime. I'm Jonathan Hakan, wishing you an Erev Mevorach, and God willing, until our next update, Shalom from Jerusalem.